Hi, I'm John Lincoln, Director of the Reach Performing Arts Center. Normally, we'd be getting together now for our annual celebration, where we celebrate student work and raise money for the theater and for our programming. But with the pandemic, things are a little different now. At that celebration, we would induct students into the International Thespian Society, which is an international honor society for theater students. Those students would be students that just completed their junior year, and they would get up and give a speech about their experience at the Reach Performing Arts Center and with the theater arts. Because things are a little different, we're going to do things a little different. So I'm conducting interviews with each of those students about to become a senior, and we hope you enjoy. So, welcome everybody. My name is John Lincoln. I'm the director of the Reach Performing Arts Center. I'm here today with Drew Wendell, who will be a senior next year. Let's just launch right into it. And the first thing I'd like to ask is if you have a favorite show or a favorite role that you've worked
Well, I gotta say, I don't think I could tell you one specific show that was my favorite. I think some shows I like more than others, but every show that I've been in has had something that I've really enjoyed about it. For example, one of my first plays that I ever did with the Reach was Charlotte's Web. I had played Templeton and Lurvy, and they were both awesome characters to work on. You would help me out a lot with the character work, but you also had let me have a lot of free range with it, and that's what I've really liked about this program is, there's guidance, but there's also a lot of free range with what direction you want to take the character. Probably my favorite play, if I had to give you one, would be Attached, which was a play written by John Lincoln.
I give everybody $20 who says that.
Oh, you do?
Oh, I didn't tell you.
I would say that Attached was my favorite play because of the story that we told. It was a horror play, which is just something that I've never done before. I've always either done a comedy or a drama kind of play, and this was just something that was out of my comfort zone, but I felt super comfortable once I got into it and started working with everybody in the cast. I had played Wes Monroe, which was the son. It was a very natural role for me. I just had to play a 17-year-old kid, and it was just really good to make people laugh and to scare some people.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. A lot of times you guys are asked just because of the nature of theater and what plays are written and for who, that you're often people are playing in high school characters that are not their age. And so that was an opportunity a few of you had to really explore something that was maybe a little closer to what you actually do in life.
Definitely.
Not that
Definitely.
you that fall you played Christian, so I don't know if you've been in love and gone to war.
No, not yet. Cyrano, that was another good play that I did play Christian, and that was a good one. I really liked the choreography work.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. So you've done a little bit of choreography for our program. So can you tell us a little bit about your interest in fight choreography?
I have a martial art background. I've been in martial arts for 10 years, so a lot of it comes very naturally to me. And just to have John teach me the ways to do it safely, but also make it look really convincing, and then being able to kind of put a little bit of a martial arts spin on that, it felt like the fights looked really real.
Yeah, I have to say it's interesting for me too, because I've worked with high school students for probably 20 years or so on fight choreography since I was a high school student and started doing it myself, much like you're doing now. And you're, like you said, you're a black belt. And so your background when it comes to martial arts is about attacking people and theoretically trying to hurt people, where fight choreography is about, it's like more like a dance. You're protecting each other throughout the process.
It's interesting that you say that because, in martial arts, you also learn a lot about self-discipline and a lot about, knowing when it's right and wrong to be able to defend yourself and defend others versus when, you're just being a bad person and beating people up. In my form of martial art, I study a form called Ketsugo, which is 5 martial arts that are kind of all mismatched into one, and they just make in my opinion, one of the strongest martial arts base if you want to learn proper self-defense, kind of plug in join Tracy's karate. In the judo and jujitsu part of Ketsugo, you need to be able to communicate with your partner who you're trying to do your routine with at the tournaments and such, but be able to do it in a way where it looks good still, and you can show your techniques and everything, but you're also doing it in a safe way where nobody's going to get hurt.
Yeah, but in your ability to understand movement and your ability to understand physicality, I mean, there's a lot of ways that people come to fight choreography and have success, and it doesn't have to be that you have a martial arts background.
Mm-hmm.
um, you know, we have people who are just athletes or who are gymnasts or cheerleaders, or all of those things, and the understanding of movement and the understanding of how it works, like I said, sort of like a dance, can be really beneficial. But I really find that it's working with you has been interesting because you and I have conversations often when we're looking at a piece of fight choreography around what you've checked me on. Hey, someone wouldn't really do that. Hey, that wouldn't really work that way, in a way that I haven't had a student check me before, and I actually really appreciate that because it allows me to look at the places where I've just done something a certain way. Anyway, I've had a really good time like learning things from you as well.
We've done some sword choreography. We've done some bow staff fighting, a small amount of knife fights. Interesting how much overlap there is in the body movements of martial arts as there is in weapon-based choreography.
Yeah. Yeah. So another question I want to ask you about: you had the opportunity to go with us to New York City 2 years ago. We saw Beetlejuice on Broadway and saw Blue Man Group. So I just was curious to hear if you had a special memory or something that you found interesting.
If I had to give you one thing that stood out above the rest, was probably the Beetlejuice show, physicality of those actors, and I feel like they also really taught us a lot in the way of acting and how they do it versus how a high school theater student would act and portray a Beetlejuice character.
You
Yep.
talked about relatively small and compact 400-seat theater here versus something like that, where the physicality, the acoustics, everything's a little different.
Mhm.
You're literally in the reach. Most of the time, our audience is in the front half, and you're on top of the first row. Like you can literally reach out and touch them.
Mhm.
So it is a different performance style.
It is, and a whole nother aspect is the technical side of it. We as a high school, of course, are not going to have the same technical budget as a Broadway show. But say we were to perform a Beetlejuice play, I think we could do a pretty good job with what we have. I never put it past the DRL students to put a good play of nothing. We've
It's on my business card.
yeah, I think it is. The year before I came into high school, you had done a play, Too Much Light Makes the Baby Go Blind, and you weren't allowed to do it because there was audience interaction.
Right.
For a festival show, and you had just like flipped the script in 2 weeks before the show, and you wrote a play just to make fun of all of the dumb rules that Drama Festival has, and it ended up doing pretty well. I recall. I believe it got second place, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I think part of theater is always sort of like giving voice against power. Not that the main principles association turning down our right to do Too Much Light Makes a Baby Go Blind was like crushing the little guy too much, but it was an opportunity to just poke fun a little bit at a system that, I mean, that's like what we call inside baseball, right? When we did that show for the public, people enjoyed it, but when we did that show at Drama Festival in front of 400 or whatever theater people, it was like every small joke, people were like, "Oh yeah, that happens to us too," right?
Yeah.
And so I think we definitely benefited from having the right audience for that show.
I would definitely say that my favorite part of theater has been festival. My first year as a freshman, we did an adaptation of Medea. We had done a post-apocalyptic theme, and that was my first introduction to fight choreography. We had done a bow staff fight in it, and choreographing that fight. And at festival, I recall we got a standing ovation after the fight.
Yeah.
it's different performing for an audience who knows exactly what you've gone through to get to this product versus, parents and friends and family who have heard what you've said about it but haven't really experienced it.
So I did my first high school drama festival. Of course, this is in Rhode Island as a sophomore in high school. But I would say for the most part, I've done a theater festival either in Rhode Island or Maine for the last 22 years or whatever.
Mhm.
And even though it's a competition, the level of support people show each other, the
Mhm.
the students in the audience are there to genuinely enjoy and celebrate each other's process. And it doesn't mean people don't want to win. It doesn't mean people don't care about the outcome, which they very much do. We very
Of
much.
course.
When we did Attached, I didn't know if that show was going to work. Total credit goes to you guys on stage making it believable. The audience treated that play as if they were watching a really good horror movie, right? And so the laughter was not at it being, they didn't perceive it as campy. They were laughing at each other screaming, right?
Mhm.
And so that audience reaction during that show was one of the best. As a director, I'm usually like a nervous wreck as a director because once I'm in the audience, I can't do anything, right? And that show,
Mhm.
I was able to I really enjoyed front to back, just being able to sit back and watch the audience a little bit. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yep. I feel like nothing went wrong during that show. Everything was like on for
Yeah.
everything. That's why I would say Attached was probably my favorite show. I feel like that was the first show that I was super involved in. I really had a lot to do with it, and I felt like I helped a lot more.
Yeah. You definitely had more of an involvement in terms of the whole picture of the show. And that's something that's really, we try to do here in terms of, you know, when the last show we did for festival, the bookstore had 21 people involved, and it was 20 cast members and one person crew, which
Mhm.
actually means it's a 21 crew show, right? Like, because all the
Yeah.
actors were also doing all of the crew work. And
Mhm.
it's interesting how that happens here, where, even someone like Mason Plummer, who initially just showed up at the door and was like, hey, do you need help building this house for Charlotte's Web?
Mhm.
At the end of that process, I was like, oh, cool, I got a new crew member. And I went to him and said, hey, do you want to do crew for the festival show? He's like, I'm thinking maybe I can be in it. Is that possible? And so, we just keep finding people that are like, we start with crew and they become actors by the time they get done.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that a lot of that credit can go to you, John. I really think that the atmosphere that you bring to the theater really helps people want to join this program, and the atmosphere that we have as a group really helps bring everybody in. I feel like the sense of community that we have in our theater program specifically really brings a lot of people in, and it makes a lot of people, who are kind of on the edge about acting, maybe it might be their thing. We can pull them in and just get them to try something, try a small role, or try helping out backstage a little bit, or something along the lines of that. And I think that a lot of credit can go to you for starting all of that.
I really appreciate that. I mean, I just think that and it also that's a two-way street, because you guys who have been in the program from the beginning have
Hmm.
to be willing to put your egos aside sometimes and say, we're going to accept this person hasn't really done it before, but they're just interested, and embrace them and accept them and not make them feel like they shouldn't be there. But I've been an actor in programs or in companies where the new people are not embraced, or
Hmm.
inexperience is not seen as an opportunity. And so I think that you guys are willing to take people under your wing or take people in. I look at something like Ian Cost and Elliot Burren this year, where Elliot hadn't been in our school for a couple of years and he came back and wanted to be in the program. And Ian, as a senior, said, "Look, you're going to help me build the set," and he really just took him and like gave him projects and never made him feel like he needed to earn something. Right? He
Hmm.
just took him under his wing and put him to work. And so I think a lot of credit goes to you guys for your willingness to go along with that, because not everybody would.
Theater people are a different kind of people, and I feel like for the most part we're pretty accepting. We like to expand our community,
Yep.
and the easiest way to do that is just being kind and saying, "Give it a go,"
Yeah. That's awesome.
Um, And I think that's a lot of what theater is about. Is you just got to give it a go. Whether you're going to look foolish, you got to just go for it. If you're playing a fool, be the fooliest fool you can be.
Story
If
of my
you're,
life.
yeah, definitely. Same here. If you're trying to play just this really dramatic character, take that extra step and do a little overacting. Worst that's ever going to happen is John will tell you, hey, maybe that's a little too much. Tone it down a little bit.
80% of that. You just take it down 20%.
Yeah, take it down 20%. Exactly. I think that through rehearsal, that's how you figure out whether, where you want to sit in that.
Oh, I always say,
Where
yeah.
is it too much? Where is it too little?
And I always say, I'd rather you go, if you go too far, I can always reel you back in.
Mhm.
If you're having trouble going all the way,
Mhm.
it's hard. It's sometimes harder to pull that out of somebody. So I always
Yeah.
encourage people to go fully for it, and then we can reel it in.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, all right, I'm going to ask you some questions. So there's a show called Inside the Actor Studio, and there was a host named James Lipton, and at the end of every show, he would ask the actors a series of questions, and it was the same set of questions every time.
Mhm.
I don't want to get fired, so I'm not going to ask what's your favorite curse word. This is
Got a
going
long list.
to right, yeah. Plus, we don't have the time to go through all of
Yeah, of course we don't. Yeah.
it. I am going to ask a bulk of the questions. I'm going to modify a couple, but
Okay.
we're going to do this. What is your favorite word?
Triskaidekaphobia.
What does that mean?
It is the fear of the number 13.
What is your least favorite word?
Um, Pass. I don't really have a least favorite word. I think that every word has its place in wherever it needs to be.
What interests you in the performing arts?
At first, it was just the acting aspect of it, but recently, it's become the stage combat part of it, where martial arts has been a part of my life for so long. Um, Stage combat has really, really left its mark on me, and I hope to explore that further in my future.
What does not interest you in the performing arts?
Uh, Makeup work. I do not like sitting in the chair for very long.
What sound or noise do you love?
The crashing of waves at a beach.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Uh, Probably nails on chalkboards would be my least favorite.
And lastly, uh, what profession, if you could do anything in the world, what profession would you want to have?
Uh, if I had no limits, I would love to be a professional actor. Big screen Broadway shows, you know, any of that. That would be the most ideal. I'd love to work on like Michael Bay movies and everything like that. Work on the fight choreography with Sylvester Stallone, even though he's in his 70s and such. I think the most ideal movie I could get is a fight scene between uh, Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, narrated by Morgan Freeman.
All right. Well, Drew, thank you so much for doing this with me. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to working with you again. Hopefully next year in an unrestricted setting. But if we've got to figure out what to do in a pandemic, we'll make it work, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Drew.
Of course.
Yeah. Have a great day.
You as well.
All right. See you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to donate to the Reach Performing Arts Center, you can hit the link attached to this post and visit our PayPal site. You can also send a check to the Reach Performing Arts Center at 249 North Deer Isle Road, Deer Isle, Maine 04627. Please like us on Facebook and Instagram, and hopefully we'll see you soon at the Reach.